going back to the second most important thing that we should all learn, which is the stories of the prophets. Why the stories of the prophets are important, guys? Why?
They teach important lessons.
Sure, that's one. What else?
They provide like examples of how we should, follow the Prophet ﷺ sunnah and not like disobey the other prophets like the other nations have before.
Sure, but there's another important reason why we're covering. 1/3 of the Quran is stories of the prophets. The whole reason why I'm doing stories of the prophets is for you to understand the Quran. So it's the main reason. This is why we're doing it. That's the main reason. And obviously it has beautiful lessons that will help us in the tazkiyah, right? So the Quran itself helps with tazkiyah. When you read it, it's going to be a guide for your tazkiyah. Back to Surah Al-Jum'ah and what we learned. Recite the ayat and purify. How do you purify? Through the Quran, through the lessons and the guidance from the Quran, right? It all goes back to the Quran. Make sense? All right. So very quickly, so we were talking about Habil and Qabil last time and how Qabil allegedly killed Habil. And why did I say allegedly? Because the Quran does not mention the names. Okay, and we're going to talk about some of the sources of the stories of prophets and discuss that as well. But anyway, these are some narrations that we have. Some of them are weak. And I'm just telling you, don't take take everything that I say that is a little bit more detailed than what you might find from the Quran is all, take that with a grain of salt. You guys understand? Take that with a grain of salt. I'm going to discuss that much more in a bit, inshallah. Okay, so here is a narration in Musnad Imam Ahmad that when Adam alayhi salam was about to die, his sons were going somewhere and angels met them, and the angel said to them, "O sons of Adam, what did you intend? What is it that what you're looking for?" They're saying, they said, our father is ill and he's longing for the fruits of the paradise. So Adam alayhi salam, when his death was approaching him, allegedly, he longed for Jannah, for the fruits of Jannah. So the angel said, go back, your father is about to pass away. That was a sign. So then the angel came back, and Hawa, Adam alayhi salam's wife, Hawa, Eve, recognized the angels, and she clung to Adam alayhi salam, and she told him, go away, because she didn't want Adam alayhi salam to pass away. So leave me, for I surely came before you. Let me be alone with the angels of my Lord. I'm sorry, Adam alayhi salam said, my bad. Adam alayhi salam said, leave me, because I want to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then they took his soul and they gave him a bath, the ghusl that you do for the dead body, shrouded the body and buried them in the grave. The angels did, and the angels taught the sons of Adam. And then the angels told the children of Adam, "O sons of Adam, this is your tradition. This is what you now need to do." Okay, this is how you actually bury the loved ones. There's a lot of disagreement of where Adam alayhi salam is buried. Obviously, this is prehistoric. Nobody's recording it. Nobody was there to witness it. That is alive today, or it's documented. People didn't even know how to read and write back then. Okay, so obviously there's a lot of disagreement. You're going to find stories about where Adam alayhi salam is buried. Some people say it's in India. Some people say it's there, here. Or where Hawa alayhi salam is buried. For example, the city that I grew up in, which is called Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. It's called Jeddah because Jeddah means grandmother. And the reason it's called Jeddah is because they believe that there is a graveyard in Jeddah where Hawa alayhi salam was buried. And that graveyard is still around. Okay. It is called the Maqbara Ummuna Hawa, the graveyard of our mother Hawa in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. That's where also in the same graveyard my father is buried. Allah yarhamu. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him. So my father is buried in the same graveyard that is claimed to be the graveyard where Hawa alayhi salam is buried. Anyway, wallahu alam, where that is. Again, take everything, being smart and educated about things that you hear. I'm going to tell you a lot of details in the stories of the prophets, and I'm going to tell you, and if I don't, please remind me that some of the sources, most of these sources are not 100% trustworthy. Okay, so take them with a grain of salt. And why is that? We're going to get into it in a bit, inshallah. Okay, so he lived for about 1,000 years. Again, allegedly, we don't know exactly. So there's Musnad Abu Ya'la that we've studied before, where we talked about the age of Adam alayhi salam, and Adam alayhi salam wanting to give part of his life to Dawood alayhi salam, the light that he saw when he saw all of the souls in front of him, and he saw and he asked about, hey, who is this? And all the souls had light. Some had brighter lights, some had dimmer lights. And Adam alayhi salam asked about a particular soul, a particular ruh that had a lot of light, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, this is Dawood alayhi salam. Okay, this is Dawood, and he's like, I want to give him part of my life. So when the lifespan of Adam alayhi salam ran out, Allah sent him the angel of death. Adam said, then Adam said, do I not have 40 years of my life left? Because he forgot that he had given 40 years of his life to Adam alayhi salam. To Dawood alayhi salam. And the angel asked him, did you not give it to your son Dawood? But he denied that because he forgot. And likewise, his offsprings denied things as well. And just as he forgot, his children also forgot. Okay, that's just an interesting narration I wanted to share with you. Okay. So after Adam alayhi salam, and we know his children, either direct children or indirect children, wallahu alam, Habil and Qabil, who came after them? Obviously, there is a lineage out there. So let's read some narrations, and then we'll derive some benefits from them. Okay. Again, with these narrations, now let me go into my little rant but my little explanation to you about the authenticity of these sources. So where do we learn about the stories of the prophets primarily?
From the Quran?
Yes, exactly. Does the Quran give a lot of detail?
I don't think so, no.
No. Then where do we get these details from? We extract them from the tafasir, the tafasir that are available. There are so many tafasir. There's hundreds of tafasir, but very few reputable ones. You might say about 30 or so that are typically referenced. But those tafasir were written by human beings, by mufassirun, right? Where did they get it from? Where did they get those details from? They're not in the Quran. Some of them might be in a hadith, as we saw. This is a hadith that's recorded in Imam Ahmad, but it's weak. So where did this person who narrated this hadith allegedly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where did he get it from? So a lot of these narrations, long story short, go back to the times, the Sahaba, the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some of them were actually converts, Jewish converts. There were Jews in Medina, right? They were Jewish converts. And it is recorded authentically that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also witnessed the Jewish Bible written in Hebrew. So when the scholars converted, One of them is commonly known as, his name is Ka'b al-Ahbar. Ka'b al-Ahbar. Okay, I will write the name here. Ka'b al-Ahbar. Why is this not typing? Oops. He was a Jewish convert to Islam. Very, very, very prominent scholar. He became a scholar. Okay, very, very authoritative. Okay, so much so that he influenced with his knowledge a lot of other companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the companions, you know, just like you guys, we have our interests. You know, some like sport, some like you know, watching movies, or some like, you know, the superheroes, and some like, you know, cars, and some like, you know, bikes, and some like whatever, you know, some like graphic design. Just like that, the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had their interests. Not all of them were learned scholars, okay? So if that's an image in your head, shed that image, okay? Not all of them were scholars. Some of them were scholars. And because that was their interest, like Ibn Abbas, the son of Abbas, the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Abbas, radiyallahu anhuma, okay? So his son Abdullah ibn Abbas, okay, his son's name was Abdullah. So that was the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he was much, much, much younger than him. Okay, so when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, Ibn Abbas would be 18, 19, something like that. Okay, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually prayed for him, made dua for him to increase his wisdom and understanding. As a result, he was going around and learning from everybody, including Ka'b al-Ahbar, who was a Jewish convert, who taught him, you know, biblical stuff, what's found in Hebrew Bibles. So there's a source known in Islamic literature called Israeliyat. Israeliyat, okay, Israeliyat, okay, means Judeo-Christian sources. That's what it means. Okay, Israeliyat means Judeo-Christian sources. So sometimes during the narration cycle and the chain of narrations that we have, there was confusion if this is coming from the Hebrew Bible or the Christian Bible, or is it coming authoritatively directly through Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You guys follow? You guys understand what's going on? So a lot of these narrations that we have, we don't know if its source is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or it is the Israeliyat sources. However, even if it's from Judeo-Christian sources, what did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell us? He told us that narrate, this is an authentic hadith, narrate from the Bible, narrate from the Jews, there's no problem in it. Number one, the thing that you need to remember, one of the reasons why I'm going through all of this and other people do, right? And the scholars reported that in their tafsir. You know, there's a lot of Israeliyat in the tafsir, okay? The Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there is no problem in it, narrating from the Jews. Number two, he said, what is our attitude toward the Bible, toward the Hebrew Bible especially? That we don't accept it and we don't reject it. Okay, so he said, don't reject it, but don't accept 100% authority from it either. So our attitude should be attitude of respect. So long story short, the kind of narrations, we understand that they're weak, okay, overall, but we narrate them because Rasulullah said it's okay to narrate them, number one. Number two is we only take from the good from it. So there's a lot of bad stuff in it too, like negative attributes about prophets and those kinds of things. So keep that in mind. If you read the Bible, you'll see a lot of weird, bizarre things that you will go like, how can a prophet of God do something like that? So we don't accept those as Muslims. We don't accept those kinds of narrations. We just accept the good from it. Make sense? Everybody clear? Okay. I think I may have spoken about this before briefly, at least. Okay, so what is mentioned about the names of the prophets and lineage? So before we go to the next prophet, let's just talk about what do we learn from, mostly from Judeo-Christian sources, okay? Because this, or maybe it's from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wallahu a'lam, okay? So Abu Dharr, he was a companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He asked the Prophet, which of the prophets was first? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Adam was first. Then he asked him, was he a prophet? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes, a prophet who was spoken to. Okay, he was Nabiyun Mutakallim. He was the one who was spoken to by Allah, right? Allah spoke to Adam, so that makes him a prophet. So Abu Dharr then said, then how many messengers were there? Rusul, not Anbiya, but Rusul. And the Prophet ﷺ said 315 messengers. Remember I told you how many total prophets and messengers were there from an unauthentic source, not from a weak source, around 124,000, right? Even though it's a weak source, we can understand, and there's corroborated evidence that there had to be a lot of prophets, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran said, we sent a lot of prophets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran that there was a prophet sent to every nation. So if you actually count every single nation, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said there were a lot of prophets, then clearly there were a lot of prophets. So that 124,000 number does not seem too crazy, number one, right? Number two, not all the prophets are messengers. Not all Anbiya, not all Nabi is a Rasul, right? So how many Rasuls were there, which are elevated according to one understanding, a majority understanding, that Rasul is higher level than a Nabi. So how many Rasuls were there? 315 out of the 124,000, okay? I may have talked about these things before in passing. Okay, but there's disagreement whether Adam alayhi salam was actually a prophet, because there was nothing to preach per se. There was nothing to correct. So the prophets and messengers, they come to correct the understanding. Adam alayhi salam came with a pure understanding. So there was nothing to correct. So there was, there's disagreement whether he was a prophet or not a prophet. According to this hadith, he was a prophet. And then let's just read this second hadith, which is also interesting, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam allegedly said, the first prophet who was sent was Idris, Enoch. He's also known as Enoch in the Hebrew Bible, Idris. So how far away was Idris? Well, we learn from the Tabaqat al-Kubra by Ibn Sa'd. He quotes a source from Ibn Hisham, which is the author of the famous Sirah, that he said that this is a narration that we receive, and then we will, it's understand to kind of understand the lineage of all of the prophets. Okay, that's why I'm going through this with you guys. So Kanuh, or Enoch, was another name for Idris. Okay, he was the son of Yared, who was the son of Mahla'il, who was the son of Qarnain, who was the son of Anush, who was the son of Sheeth, who was the son of Adam. Okay. Obviously, you take this with a grain of salt, but you will also find something very similar in the Hebrew Bible. Have you heard of, I will use the term loosely, but the prophet Sheath? Have you heard? No? Okay. So it is commonly understood that Sheath was a prophet. He was the son of Adam. Wallahu alam, whether he was a prophet or not, a lot of the historians, like what we are covering right now, is Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, the beginning and the end, which is a book of history recorded by Ibn Kathir. He chooses not to mention Sheath in any story about Sheath, but you will find them in other books that carry very unauthentic and very unauthentic and weak and probably fabricated legends of the people of the past. And you will hear about Sheath alayhi salam, if he that he was a prophet. And one thing that is said about him is around his time when bad things started to happen. So we know that Habil and Qabil, the first major sin that happened was what? Killing, right? Murder was the first thing that happened. Then, even though this is early in human history, right? Around the time of Adam alayhi salam. So you will not find a lot of, there's no idol worship there, right? It's all, everybody understands Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, miracles are happening around that time. So what do you think is most likely to occur at that time? Corrupt human behavior is what's likely to occur, right? Starting with murder. You guys with me? Is this making sense? Idol worship and polytheism and atheism and all of those kinds of things are not going to happen at that time. But what is most likely to occur is corrupt human behavior, bad behavior, evil behavior, like murder, like it is said around Sheath alayhi salam. I'm just going to say alayhi salam because I don't know, and out of respect, I will say that around his time is when music and illegitimate relationships started to become more common. Okay, that was around his time. So that was corrupt human behavior. All right, that's all what I'm going to share with you. Anything beyond that you read is legends. Okay, clear? Okay, now then in this tabaqat, so Ibn Hisham is listing and Ibn Sa'ad is capturing that then came after Idris, which we're going to learn about shortly, which we know very little about Idris alayhi salam, but he's mentioned in the Quran, and as we shall see. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea of the lineage of the prophets, okay? It's very important that you keep this lineage in mind, because otherwise, when you read the Quran, you'll be all confused, who came before what, who came before whom, and all of that stuff, right? It gets really confusing and muddy in people's head. And there's a lot of trees of the prophets, images and documents out there. I'm telling you how it really is, like based on the most reputable sources that are available out there, okay? But there's other stuff out there that you may, I don't know how trustworthy that is, okay? A lot of it's more based on legends and whatnot, okay? Okay, so Enoch, who was Idris, came from Sheath, who was the son of Adam alayhi salam. Then came the first messenger. So Enoch was a Nabi, okay? The first Nabi was Idris. Again, there's disagreement whether Adam was a Nabi or not. So it was Idris alayhi salam. Then it was the first messenger that came was Nuh alayhi salam. So what is Nuh relationship with Adam alayhi salam? Well, Nuh was the son of Lamech, who was the son of Methuselah, who was the son of Kanuh, who was the son of Idris, Enoch, who was the son of Yared, who was the son of Mahla'il bin Qainan bin Anush bin Sheath bin Adam. You see the generations? Get it? You guys with me? Or is too many names? I know I'm not going to go through all these names. I'm just kind of giving you an idea. By the way, if you have seen the movie about Noah, the Noah, you will find these names. Actually, these names are in the Hebrew Bible. Methuselah and Lamech and Kanuch. Okay? Kanuch, who's Kanuch? Idris, right? So you will see these names in there. So there is some, truth to that. Anyway, so after Nuh alayhi salam, there was a big flood. After the big flood, who was the first messenger that came after Nuh alayhi salam? The biggest messenger who came of all the messengers, only second to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Ibrahim alayhi salam, who was the son of Tariq, and so on and so forth, until Sam. Sam was the son of Nuh. Okay, the Sam is important tangent. You know how we're gonna go into a little bit more detail into this, but there are, we call, you must have heard Samites. Have you heard, like, anti-Semite? Those who are anti-Semite, they are anti-Jews, but Semites is actually a race. Okay, they come from Sam. Arabs are also Semites. Okay, Arabs are also Semites. So there's Semite nations, there's other nations as well. This goes. So this is, the Semites come from Sam, who was the son of Nuh alayhi salam. Okay, who was the saved son of Nuh alayhi salam, right? Because one of the sons perished because he was a disbeliever, as we will learn later on. Anyway, so Ibrahim alayhi salam then had two sons, Ismail and Ishaq, Ishmael and Isaac. Okay. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's lineage goes back to Ismail alayhi salam. Ismail alayhi salam, after that, there's hundreds of people. And after Ismail alayhi salam is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's no prophet in the middle of these hundreds of people. Okay, no prophet in the middle between Ismail alayhi salam and Ishaq. So that's a tree on its own. Clear? But remember, the children of Israel come from Ishaq, Isaac, who had, his son was Jacob, Yaqub. Yaqub's other name is Israel, right? I've said that several times before. I hope you guys remember. Yaqub's other name is Israel. Okay? So all the other prophets that we know of pretty much go back to this Yaqub alayhi salam, because the Jews were the preferred nation, the prophet after prophet after prophet came. So Ibrahim alayhi salam's two sons, Ismail and Ishaq. Ishaq had son Jacob, who was Israel, whose famous son. How many sons did Jacob have? Yaqub alayhi salam had how many sons? Do you know? 12. 12. Yeah, 12 sons. Okay. One of those sons was Joseph. Yeah, Yusuf. The other youngest son was Benjamin. Okay. And the other 12 also, the other 10 also became prophets. Eventually, in the Quran, they're called asbab. Let me just show you that really quickly. Asbab. One second. It's mentioned several times in the Quran, but I'll just show you one example. Inna awhayna ilayka kama awhayna ila Nuh. We revealed to you, O Rasulullah, just like we revealed to Noah and the prophets, when nabiyyin min ba'di, and the prophets after them, wa awhayna ila Ibrahim, and we sent revelation to Ibrahim and Ismail and Ishaq and Yaqub wal asbaq, and the asbaq. These are the children of of Yaqub, of Jacob. They're called Asbab. Okay. Have you heard of the 12 tribes of Israel? Have you heard that term? That's who these guys are. So they were all prophets, and they all became into 12 tribes. So when we learn about when we inshallah eventually talk about the story of Yaqub alayhi salam, we will talk about that. Okay. وعيسى وأيوب ويونس وهارون وسليمان وآتينا داود زبورا. Okay, good. So I just wanted to show you this word, asbab. It's not mentioned here in the Tabaqat excerpt that I have, but I just wanted to connect those dots. So out of those 12 sons of the asbab was Joseph, Yusuf alayhi salam, who was a messenger. Okay, and from Yusuf alayhi, Joseph. Then we also have mention of Lut alayhi salam in the Bible. He's known as Lot. Okay, he was the cousin of Ibrahim alayhi salam, cousin or the nephew. Yeah. No, so clearly a nephew of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So he was around the same time as Ibrahim alayhi salam, Lut alayhi salam. Okay. Then there's mention of Hud alayhi salam, okay, who goes up to Sam and Nuh alayhi salam. So his lineage is unrelated to the lineage of Ismail and Ishaq. So Hud alayhi salam is on a tree on his own, on a branch on his own. Okay, you guys clear? Hud alayhi salam is a branch on its own, going back to Sam. Then Saleh, you must have heard about Ad and Thamud and Iram as the nations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed earlier. Look, Saleh alayhi salam was from Thamud, who was from Iram, who was from Sam, who was from Noah. Okay? Is this interesting, or you guys bored out of your wits?
This is interesting to like see how they are all connected, how it traces
good.
back.
Okay, alhamdulillah, good. So my hard work this morning is paying off. Alhamdulillah. I actually translated this from the Tabaqat this morning. So alhamdulillah, it's beneficial to you. Shu'aib, then came Shu'aib alayhi salam. I don't have an English name because he does these. Do you notice I don't have an English name next to these? Why? Because they're not mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. Has nothing to do with the children of Israel, right? These are branches on their own. That's why they don't have English names or Latinized names or biblical names. Okay, so Shu'aib alayhi salam, did that point make sense? It's an important point I'm making.
Yeah, it made sense.
Good. So Shu'aib alayhi salam was, from all of these people going up to Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he was in Midian. Midian was actually the name of a person, supposedly, who was the son of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Wallahu alam, how, what that is. So, okay. Then Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam came. Musa alayhi salam was a messenger. Harun alayhi salam was a prophet. They were the two sons of Imran. Again, not sure which Imran. Some Imran way before, not the Imran of the father of Maryam alayhi salam, which came much later. This is way back. So this is about 4,000 years ago. Okay, this thing, Ibrahim alayhi salam, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. This is about 3,000-4,000 years ago. Musa alayhi salam came, and Harun. Okay, so they obviously went back. Their lineage came back. Their lineage is not through Joseph. Their lineage of Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam is not through Yusuf alayhi salam. It is from another branch from the children of Ishaq, Isaac. Okay. Then came Elias, who is Ilyas, who goes back to Jacob as well. Okay. By the way, just some interesting trivia for you. This son of Yaqub alayhi salam, Lawi in Arabic, is actually Levi. You guys wear Levi's jeans, right? That Levi, the word Levi, that's this guy. That he was a prophet under the son of Yaqub alayhi salam, Levi. Okay. Then Yasa'a came, who goes back to Ishaq as well, who's through Yusuf alayhi salam, as you can see. Then Yunus alayhi salam came, who is through the children of Yaqub alayhi salam, who was the son of Ishaq and Ibrahim, yes. And then Ayyub alayhi salam, Job, he's known as Job. He came through also Isaac. Then Dawood, David, the mighty messenger. Remember, Adam alayhi salam saw that light of the soul who was shining really bright, and he exchanged age with him. That's that Dawood. That Dawood alayhi salam, the mighty messenger. David, who killed Goliath, right? He goes through also the children of Yaqub alayhi salam, okay, and Isaac. Then Sulaiman, who was the direct son, immediate son of Dawood alayhi salam. Dawood alayhi salam was the first king of the children of Israel. The king, they wanted a king, so they got a king. Well, he's not the first king, the second king. And then Sulaiman, who was the third king. So there's actually books in the Bible called King 1 and King 2. The first king, the second king, so that's this. And then eventually, obviously not, there are several other prophets which are not mentioned here. Then it's mentioned that Zakaria alayhi salam, who was eventually through Yaqub alayhi salam, he came much later. This is about 2,000 years ago, okay? And Zakaria alayhi salam had a son, Yahya, who was the cousin of Isa. He was the cousin of Jesus. So Jesus was born, this is about 2,000 years ago, right? Jesus was also basically related to Zakaria alayhi salam through Mary, obviously. And then remember that other lineage of Ibrahim alayhi salam, of Ishmael. There's a lot of people, and then it's just Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. Hopefully this was a little bit helpful. It's kind of, as you see the names in the Quran of these prophets, where they kind of line up in genealogy. Questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
For this document, like, are you through our email? Are you going to send us like a copy of it?
So you can have a link to my blog, which I recently started. So I actually just blog this thing. So you're more than welcome to have it, and let me share it with you. I'm so glad you asked, by the way.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. Yes. So I'm gonna keep adding stuff to this blog. It's more advanced stuff, but there's this article here. So let me see if, let me know if you can find it. I can go to that article right here. So I call that my blog Pearls of the Deep, because my goal here is to do this English translation of selected excerpts from classical Islamic scholarly works in Arabic for the students of knowledge. Okay. So this is for me and for others who want to benefit. So I just looked this up because I wanted to share this with you guys this morning, and then I blocked about it here. The names of the prophets and their lineage from Ibn Sa'd Tabaqat al-Kubra. And this is the Arabic and the English translation right here. All of it is right here. Okay. Okay, good.
Yes.
Happy? I knew somebody, I was hoping somebody would ask me, so that's why I shared it. So Jazakallah khair for asking. Any questions? Do I have everybody's email?
Yeah, I shared you my email.
Okay. So you need to share your email, whoever said no, okay? Please. You can send me a message separately if you'd like. All right, Jazakumullah khair. Talk to you guys next week, and we're going to talk about whom? We're going to talk about Idris alayhi salam. Okay? Enoch. All right, cool? All right. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. See you guys next week. Guys, wake up. Wake up, guys. Wake up. Have some coffee. All right.
Salam.